What is a fun and interesting way to use a palimpsest? Is it palimpsest? Palimpsest?
Palimpsests.
Palimpsest.
Yeah, okay, so a palimpsest, real word, fun fact. What a palimpsest actually is basically in the days of yore, when you were making a scroll of some kind, you could either do so on parchment or you could do so on vellum. Vellum is much more durable and long lasting and apparently writes nicer. I don't know, I've never written on it, but it's not made of like paper or anything like that, or tree bark. It's sheepskin typically, and it's like stretched out really thin and treated, so it's like really beautiful paper, but it's also really, really, really hard to make, and it's very lengthy and very expensive. So a palimpsest is a type of vellum where after something was written on it and that was no longer needed, they would scrape off the top layer so that it could be used again. However, sometimes there would still be like tiny little faded remnants of what used to be on the scroll underneath all of the new ink and stuff like that. So a lot of palimpsests that exist like in museums or various archives are valued for like the document that is on them, but also for what is underneath it, that with modern technology we've been able to see 2, 3, 4, 5, up to like 10, 12 layers deep of like stuff that used to be on some of these palimpsests. Particularly the really like reused ones were often used for like practicing on vellum, because they're not just going to be like, oh, hello, new scribe. Here's how you learn on writing for vellum. Go write down this important thing for the Pope now. Like, you know, you got to learn that. That's what a palimpsest is in the real world. In the context of Dungeons and Dragons as a monster, it is very much that, except it is a magical scroll that has been used. So like you get a scroll, it's got the magic spell cast on it, you cast the spell with the scroll, the magic fades, but you can reuse the paper again, so you make another scroll. And once that has been done so many times, all of this magic energy, the tiny little remnants that get left behind, eventually, in rare occasions, infuse the scroll itself with life in a way. And it becomes a sort of construct, like a living construct that is fueled by all of the magic that has been like layered on it and then scraped away and then layered on it and then scraped away again. So the palimpsest as a creature is like a sentient living construct that is a scroll of paper, and it has the ability to suck people into it. So if you open it up and you're not taking extra care, it has the ability to pull you into the scroll and you become like an ink version of yourself now contained within the palimpsest. And of course they can cast spells that have been written onto them and all that kind of thing, and I believe they have a fly speed if I'm not mistaken. They can like make themselves fly so they can move around and that kind of thing. But yeah, a weird little creature. I believe got its origin in 2nd edition, I want to say, and I believe it was part of an old it was one of the magazines that it first got printed in, if I'm not mistaken, but I think it showed up in a compendium later. My takeaway for how we could use this monster in a fun and unconventional way is also, I guess it's worth saying, the reason Fred threw it to me is because I did a lore video about these guys like forever ago. So after you're done watching this and you think that sounds cool, go check it out if you want stats for it, because I converted it to 5th edition. Anyways, I thought it would be really fun to incorporate this in a new and more modern 5th edition setting. Specifically, the first thing that came to mind was Strixhaven, because Strixhaven is a magic school. It's your D&D Harry Potter setting, right? And I was like, how fun would it be if you had a palimpsest as one of the instructors at the school? So the palimpsest is the teacher, right? So, you know, your first day of class, all the new mages and everything come in and they're all sitting in class and they're just like waiting for the teacher to arrive and maybe like talking a little smack, like, oh, I heard whatever. And then like the scroll sitting on the desk at the front of the class rises up and unfolds, and that's your teacher.
I'll have you know, I was written on by Merlin himself.
Yeah, exactly. And like scrolls, especially in like a fantasy setting, especially in Strixhaven, there is precedent for this, can be like huge, right? Like the creature is imagined as a small like scroll that you hold, but you could have it be like 7 feet wide, and it like folds up in front of the class and acts as the teacher and as the chalkboard and as the projection screen, because it can move all the ink around. It can show you whatever it wants to show you within the context of that. So I'm picturing the scroll unfolding, and then in like a very YouTube video essay style fashion, the like little ink version of the professor walks out and is like talking, and then they can display whatever they want in the space beside them. Yeah, exactly. Like one of those YouTubers who like draw things on the whiteboard. They do like speed draws while they're talking or whatever. So I feel like it could.
Do you know where my brain went with this? My brain, as soon as you described that, went with I don't know if anyone's a Doctor Who fan, but like I think it was first or second episode of the new series. There's like that one character who's like flat skin hanging from a rack, who's always just yelling, "Moisturize me." That's exactly where my brain went.
Lady Cassandra.
Yeah,
that's
I can't remember. She's like mega powerful too, right? Am I crazy? Am I wrong? Am I misremembering? Okay, never mind. Move along.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
That's
Right.
right.
Lady Cassandra, she was really rich.
Palimpsest speak.
So powerful for nowadays.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt with that nonsense.
No, that's okay. And yeah, to answer the question in chat, I believe if I'm not, it's been a while since I made that video. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think the palimpsest can actually like verbalize. I think it can just like make words show up. You can always tweak little things like that about creatures if you want, right? Like if you want it to be able to speak, it can very easily use magic to cast thaumaturgy. You could speak telepathically, whatever you want it to do. Even outside of Strixhaven, it just being some type of like sentient construct NPC that is passionate about learning, or just even the arcane in general. Like you could have it replace a powerful wizard NPC where the players come in and they're looking for this wizard in this wizard tower, and then they find him and find out that through some mishap he's been sucked into a scroll, and now he's just like, oh yes, like I'm still here, I'm still whatever, but like I'm a scroll now. And the party's like, okay, well, you're a rolled up book. That's unfortunate, but I mean, we still have to deal with whatever we have to deal with. So
I think that mine could also take place in Strixhaven because it winds up accidentally being the diary of an angsty teen. And so it gets like really upset when the teen is really upset and causes problems for people. In that way, it can like cast things. Ugh, Xander didn't even say hi to me in the hallway today, and like it really hurt my feelings. And like, so those words just come off the page in form of like some spell that makes you sad and do bad or whatever. Or like it can be like, oh yeah, I saw Mary Bella in the hallway and she looked so gross, ha 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 ha. And then like it casts like Tasha's hideous laughter on the target or whatever the angsty teen is feeling, which is so many terrible things for those of us who have all been teenagers. Yes, those things, except for on an adventuring party.
I love that idea, because if you had someone in a setting like Strixhaven, or even just like in a town, like all these random things could be happening to people, no one would know why. Then the party investigates. It's like, oh, it's just a teenage girl writing in her diary, and the diary happens to be a sentient magic item.
It's very Tom Riddle and that diary from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I think there's
like
some really cool themes with the like the fact that it like absorbs words into itself. So I think that's a really
We're
great
back
way
to
go with
this.
it.
Yeah, back to this words have power thing. Very King Killer Chronicles.
See, I didn't go with Strixhaven. I went with, being Mystara, Glantry, the Great School of Magic there, which is, for those unfamiliar with Glantry's Great School of Magic, it's equal parts Harry Potter, equal parts I, Claudius, and equal parts Lord of the Flies. And it's, you've got all these students, they're all, because in Glantry, if you're a wizard, you're nobility, automatically. So you've got all of these kids that are politically connected, only a few of them would be missed. And you've got all the teachers that are, always, they're pushing their own magical theory. It was like when we did the campaign one time, I think they went through 8 evocation wizards in one semester, because they were all testing out their new spells. But for such a high political cutthroat magic school, this would be a perfect assassination tool, where you just like, hey, it's like, here's a bunch of scrolls, and we're just going to slide this one right in the right near the top. So while you're writing, and then all of a sudden, bam, no more kid, and then you talking about dead kids again, and then they just like, magic hand it, put it back in the scroll, put it back in there, and we just save it for later. No muss, no fuss, no messy cleanup. An absolute cutthroat school like Glantry this is a perfect assassin's tool, as long as the assassin learns not to touch it. But that's why you got Mage Hand. Just another weapon in a nation where it's fantasy Yugoslavia. The only thing that Glantrians hate more than each other is everybody else.
I'm here
Pass
for that
it as a
too.
note to somebody and it says, "Do you like me?" Check one, yes or no. And if they check no, it casts power word kill on them.
Something interesting about that too is because like if you get sucked into the scroll, your soul is still in there. So like if an assassin or someone was using this as a tool to like take people out, they would have basically all of those people imprisoned in this little palimpsest too, which could be interesting depending on whether or not that ever gets in someone else's hands.
And Glantry does not allow does not allow clerics. They put clerics to death because the only religion allowed is the philosophy of arcane magic. They will feed clerics to, I mean, not only clerics, but they will feed clerics to black puddings. They cut apart dwarves and halflings to try to figure out what makes them anti-magical. So if you get eaten by one of these things, there ain't no coming back. There's no churches at all in the nation. They declared all nobles are wizards, and they said because secretly one of the great wizards is an immortal, which is the Mystaran equivalent of gods, which there is some mechanical differences, but he doesn't want any competition. So he just said no clerics. All the other immortals can't compete for worshippers in this nation. They are by definition militantly atheist, despite the fact that they don't know that they're actually the philosophy that they worship, talking about magic, is actually the worship of this one immortal that's hiding out. It's not a nice place to live.
My brain with it immediately went to like murder mysteries. With any good murder mystery, you're going through the subject or the suspects, and you're seeing like who could have done it, who had access, all that kind of stuff. So my thought was that you have the victim go missing inside their office. Locked room, no one there, no ways in. You have the players go through and investigate everyone in the area and be like, okay, well, who on earth possibly could have done this? You get to the end of the mystery and no one murdered them. The paper he was working on was a palimpsest and swallowed him whole. I mean, you could just do that actually with any mimic now that I think about it. I just kind of like the idea of a murder mystery that's kind of a misdirect. The way I would run it personally would be like, as soon as the players get stuck or once they've eliminated all the suspects, then the palimpsest just attacks, because there's no point frustrating them with a mystery that has no answer, but it is fun to resolve the mystery that way.
I am devastated to be exposed to this idea in this way instead of as a player. I think that's a good idea. I love that idea.
I think it'd be fun.
The curse of being a DM. That's all
And
we do. All we do is come up with plot hooks and then tell each other because we can't tell our players.
Yeah.
So this was a new one for me, so I had to go watch your old video, Josiah. So thank you for that. But my brain kind of went rampant with a bunch of ideas. So I'm gonna do lightning round, quantity over quality. Okay. So one, I am someone who hoards my inventory. At the end of the campaign or a video game, I have just this stockpile of stuff. Like I'm saving it for that one fight when I'm gonna need it, but I end up just never using it.
Too good to use syndrome.
Yeah. What if you had a spell scroll that like you got at the beginning of the game and the players just keep mocking it, like, oh, we're never going to use that, and like at the end of the campaign their scorn towards it and not using it warps it and makes it into this palimpsest that then starts to, on its pages, like SpongeBob the Doodle Bob, that's like "Mihoy minoy," like the bad SpongeBob doodle that comes to life. It makes drawings of all the players, like caricatures of how the scroll sees them, and then when they're resting one night, all of the drawings like come up off the scroll. And they, because people love to fight like their dark selves, like everyone likes like, oh, the party, but it's their nega dark selves, but it's their Doodle Bob selves. It's like a caricature of them drawn by something that barely has sentience, and they're ambushed by their doodle selves. Yeah, so that's
I don't know why
thing.
you said quantity over quality, because that's the most baller idea I've ever heard in my life.
I love the idea of it
that
just being
so
like
much.
shoved in a bag with so many magic items over the months that it just becomes alive.
You think I'm worthless? Have an extra 2 inches on that nose.
And there's like a sentient +1 dagger in there. It's like, oh, hey, pal. Like, yeah, after they found the +2 dagger, I just
First
went
time.
right in the bag. Yeah.
It's like it's almost like Toy Story, like the toy that didn't get played with, and it just becomes twisted. And second, kids could find this old piece of paper and it's almost like Jumanji. So stuff happens, like the kids will draw on it, but then that thing like comes to life, but the kids don't realize it. Like that sort of stuff you could do. I also thought of the anime manga Death Note, where you write someone's name and how they die. Like, what if someone found a book that or a scroll that was used by some fiend or something for horrible things, like let's say a Rakshasa that would record people's deals and make deals with them, but then one day like it was banished back to hell and it hasn't come back for its book, but that book now, from all the horrible things that Rakshasa did, turns into a book, Palimpsest, that has the ability to manifest ill wishes or like make dark deals, that sort of thing. And then I also thought of that movie The Faculty, where it's like, I think the teachers were like all aliens, but let's say this is kind of piggybacking off of Mr. Welch's idea. So I just had this idea where, a few of you talked about like the magic school. Let's say one wizard in charge or one of the teachers finds this palimpsest and it's feeding them information. Like, it's had so many spells from ancient times written on it that it starts to kind of thaumaturgy like speak, or like words manifest on it like a Ouija board to give ancient magic, and the wizard becomes greedy for it. The thing demands things of it, like maybe souls of children at the school or something like that. And so then it becomes like Simpsons Treehouse of Horrors, where the faculty was like eating the kids, but instead of eating the kids, they're trying to get them to be sucked into this palimpsest so that it will keep giving them ancient magic that used to be written on it. And then last one, I also thought of an item from Curse of Strahd, which is a mirror. Yeah, there's a mirror in Curse of Strahd that probably, if you played Curse of Strahd, you probably didn't even know that this happened, because it's kind of in a place where you probably won't interact with it, and you need to know certain words for it to do something. But if you do, you summon in the mirror this like shadow assassin. It's like Bloody Mary sort of stuff, and you can have the assassin be sent to go kill someone. And so it would be interesting, so instead of a mirror, if the palimpsest was like some otherworldly assassin, or, and this is kind of similar to the Death Note concept, a book that used to be someone's bingo book or like bounty book of writing people who were going to be assassinated, and now it's just a palimpsest, and if you write someone's name, it summons the specter of that assassin who is now dead, that was like famous in the land, but no one ever knew what happened to him, but maybe he got absorbed into this palimpsest and now he is summoned when someone writes a name on it or something like that. So some of these kind of departed from what a palimpsest is, but I kind of just focused on like this piece of paper, like that has something going on with it. What do we do with it? And those are all
that's A-okay. That's kind of what these roundtables are for, right? Is just like, this is what
I
a monster
love
does.
Your ideas
but what
so
could
much.
it do?
I decided I had to try and figure out, how do I make a piece of paper that likes to absorb beings, that is essentially, I kind of feel a little bit like a mimic in many senses of the word. What things can I disguise this palimpsest as to encourage my player characters to their doom?
You're gonna say a pinup poster, aren't you?
You did, so I don't need to. Okay.
There's another idea for you.
So there you go. It wasn't me who said that. No, so I was trying to think of things that were made out of paper, that it could be a treasure map is like the perfect thing, because that's the one thing that player characters would love to have. So the first person who unwinds this thing could well wind up being inside it very, very quickly, because who doesn't want a treasure map that leads you to a treasure? That's like the easiest way to get them, because it's not like they're necessarily dead. My understanding from what you said, Josiah, is they are still, in fact, still mostly intact, kind of, sort of.
They're trapped,
maybe.
But
They're trapped. So you could potentially get them out of the thing. It might be difficult, but they're not necessarily gone forever. This is why I thought treasure map was a good way of going about it. And another one that I popped into my mind for those, because there's a lot of people who like to use bounty boards, and that is a criminal wanted poster. You know, like you go through on the board, and one of these things is a palimpsest, whatever the heck is, you know. Okay, it just seemed like the thing that people would try to rip off the bounty board, and so I had to have a wanted poster. Then a holy book, because if there's nothing, I mean, if you want to get the paladin and the cleric, a holy book is going to do it. So I felt like some sort of Bible, holy book, easiest way to catch them. An origami paper bird, simply because origami paper birds that fly around are really cool, and the fact that they could potentially wind up sucking you in, easy peasies. What about an evil wizard who has a spell book, and that spell book is like their familiar, and it's a palimpsest.
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 Nailed it.
Yeah, I still hate this word. I hate this word. Wallpaper. No, not wallpaper. I'm only kidding. I was thinking a
I
wall.
kind of love that though.
I was thinking a wall painting. And a wall painting that appears as whatever the viewer's greatest desire is, so that they couldn't help but touch it, so that they wind up inside it. And then there was the last one, which is probably by far the worst of my ideas, which is why I've left it to last. And I was thinking, what paper product do people use the most that could potentially be this monster that everybody uses every day, that you may want to include into your fantasy adventure? And William's probably already guessed. Okay.
Post-it notes. Oh.
No.
This is exactly where I thought
The
it was going.
reveal.
Okay.
Reveal.
Toilet paper. Medieval fantasy Dungeons and Dragons toilet paper. When they're on the long drop, they're on the lavatory, the latrine, the whatever you call it.
Now, now I just have questions. Who was writing magic spells on this toilet paper?
Well,
A lot of guys for it to become a palimpsest, like a lot of them.
The
Yeah.
doo-doo man
My
said.
question is, who's wiping their ass with vellum?
Well, I mean,
The Pope?
What if the palimpsest got recycled?
The poop, am I
and
right?
it was transformed into something else. So it used to be the vellum, but someone recycled it and repurposed it. It could be a tale of modernization. The old ways have made something that used to be amazing into just a roll of toilet paper, and the palimpsest is out for vengeance.
The old recycled Sears catalog.
All I'm thinking of is like the Flintstones. It's a living.
it is. The good news is that most dungeon masters do not put toilets in their RPGs. So the chance of anybody ever experiencing this particular situation is very, very slim. The only place you'll probably ever hear about it is in this video. Because I can assure you that I have looked to see if other people have made videos on toilets in Dungeons and Dragons, and I am apparently the only one to have made
You're the only
two.
one.
I've made two.
Toilet mimic?
Well, not quite that. Well, yes, I have done that. Okay.
You know what else comes to my mind with the toilet paper is Beauty and the Beast, how the rose, like its petals fall off. What if like someone's soul or curse was tied to a roll of toilet paper, and when it's all used up, it's kind of like all the petals fell off the rose?